Hey everyone, Ittarra here, bringing you our next SoulCalibur VI video. In this video, we're going over a very basic frame data explanation, so that way people can actually dip their toe in and understand what they're looking at. I ran a poll on Twitter a couple of weeks ago, wondering if people wanted to see this, or a Astaroth tech guide, or anything of that nature. This won out by about 8%, so I was good either way. Now, the reason why Yoshimitsu here is my training dummy is because he has the simplest and most easiest showing of an exception to this frame data, which is his AA is an I-10. Most characters in this game only have an I-12. Now, what this means is I-12 and I-10 means Impact 10, Impact 12. If you're coming over from 2D Fighter, it's similar to how there's Startup, Active, and then Recovery. In this game, it's just more of Impact. It's more of just active and then recovery. So there's no real startup to actually be had. Now, the interesting thing to note here is there are very many exceptions to the rules, and this game is extremely offensive. I will be comparing this game to Tekken quite a bit because Tekken is the big brother game and so on and so forth. Now, the interesting thing to note here is my I-12 base is negative at least 10, which is why he can punish it. Now, if I have the extension, hits him every time, counter, because he hit the button. So, what that means is in this game, strings can actually have quite a bit of frame trapping to them. Now, if you're wondering, well, how do I get out of this? Well, the simple fact of the matter is certain moves, as long as they are -9 or lower, I believe, because you're talking about negatives, or is it higher? I believe it's higher. If it's -9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, or anything of that nature, you can have your turn still, in the sense that you can either GI or do an extension, something like that. Now, here's the interesting thing here. Notice how I can do 4B, which I can clearly block, and GI in return, but I can't do my 4A afterwards, okay? So, what we're going to do here is I'm going to show you what the biggest thing is about positive and negative frames, and how there's exceptions. Now, the reason why we're doing this is because this move right here is +8. So no matter what, I'm safe. However, notice I can interrupt him. When you're plus on block, that means that your next move now has that many frames shaved off of it. So I know people are kind of like scratching their heads a little bit. Don't worry, don't worry. I will show it immediately here so that way you guys can actually understand it. Okay, everybody, we are in my editing program here to show you this formula that will help you throughout every FGC you will ever play, because every FGC follows the same set of rules when it comes to positive and negative frames. Basically, it's base moves frames plus or negative equals total reversed. Now, what that means is, and I know that sounds complicated as shit, is basically all it means is that you reverse the total. So the formula would look like this, and we're using 12 here because that's the standard for SoulCalibur. If your startup is 12, but you're +8, your new move is 4, because you have to minus that number of frames on startup for yourself. However, if it's reversed and you are -8, your new total is 20. So, the way it works is your entire thing is just reversed at the end. Instead of adding the 8 frames to make it 20, you negative it. I know it looks complicated and everything else, but I'm pretty sure this makes a lot more sense than just somebody saying it out loud. This is the way I understood it, it's just reversing the total. Instead of adding the frames, you just minus them. Instead of minusing the frames, you add them. That's pretty much the simplest way I understood it, because it was like, I don't understand what the exact motion of negative and positive frames are. Well, this is the formula I used, and it clicked immediately. So it's basically simple math, but it's just reversed. So I hope this actually helped you understand it a little bit more. I understand it looks complicated, but it's not exactly that big of a deal. You know, you'll understand it the more you try to wrap your head around it. Now, on to the rest of the video. Now, the other interesting thing here is pushback. Now, if you're wondering why pushback is so important, this move is -12. That move is -16. However, the pushback on it makes it safe. So in this game, you're going to have to actually go in or just train with a buddy or something like that and study what exactly would technically be considered safe. Now, if you need a training dummy to see just how safe something is, Yoshimitsu is the easiest candidate. All you have to do is make sure you go into dummy character settings, stand, guard all, attack with AA. If you do that, you're perfectly fine, and you can test to your heart's content what is safe and what is not. Now, as you can see here, there's multiple things. Because I'm still technically tech crouched, AA will whiff. But also, I believe the pushback on it has a little bit to do with it, so we're going to do it against the wall. See? Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Yeah. If I'm not blocking, I would get hit immediately. Oh no, it would still technically make me tech crouch. Nice. I never knew that. Hey, learn something new every day. Anyway, the simple fact of the matter is when you're looking at frame data in this game, make sure that it is -9 or higher. -9, 8, 7, 6, 5, whatever. Because if you do that, it's still technically your turn because you can GI afterwards. Boom. Boom. So, no matter what, there will always be some sort of answer. Now, if you're dealing with I would want to say, spam-heavy character, I used air quotations there, like Taki, Talim, Maxi, or anyone that is very string-heavy, that have guard breaks in the middle of their strings or stances or anything of that nature, the simple fact of the matter is 2K is usually your best option with it, because everybody has a universal 2K. What people don't necessarily have... Oh, I'm sorry, not universal 2K, because some characters have a 1K that is technically the same as their 2K. Now, the simple fact of the matter is there's tons of exceptions to these rules, and that's where the difficulty in SoulCalibur lies. What is actually safe, what is actually negative, and so on and so forth, because every character has something different that they can bring to the table that is not necessarily traditional. As compared to Tekken, which is an extremely defensive game, because everybody has I would want to say the same punishes from I-10 to I-14, 16, so on and so forth. If you see -14, I believe, it's like, oh, launch punishable. You know, that's the answer. In this game, not everyone has the same launcher or the same aspect of a launcher. If you see something of that nature, that means that, because, let's be real here, that move is I-22. 3B is I-22. And the reason why I know this is because if I do this setup on anyone that's not Yoshimitsu and CE in their face, they can't do shit. If I do this with this, absolutely not. You could see the animation start for the critical edge. You saw me, all I did was raise my elbow. So that's the difference in what can actually be had, because technically, when I did that setup, and then I did the 3B afterwards, I had an additional 8 frames shaved off of that startup. Astaroth CE is I-20, which means that in that setup, my CE is I-12. So that should give you a grand idea of how much positive frames actually matter in any type of fighter. Now, we're going to go over one last thing, and that'll be the end of the video. In this game, a lot of moves have a lot of pushback. So, I think I talked about this earlier, but the simple fact of the matter is you can see here, this knee right here, but then this stomp. The stomp is inherently, absolutely more negative than the actual knee. However, because of the pushback, there's no way he can punish me. I mean, he could punish me a certain other way, but because that is the range. Like I said, hop kicks and so on and so forth don't necessarily exist in SoulCalibur. You have to figure out what exactly is going to be, because just because you have an I-12 or an I-10 doesn't mean that you're free to hit that button anywhere. Like, a simple fact of the matter is look how short range my 4A is. Look how short range it is. You can space that so easily, and that's my Punisher. That's my I-12. I don't get the luxury of having an AA or anything like that. So, it's all a matter of, oh, here's yours, but is it good enough to actually use other than point blank, so on and so forth. This is where the technical aspect of SoulCalibur comes into play, because everyone has different ranges because they're using weapons. So, excuse me. The way it works is what has the better range? You know, you have to study it. Now, obviously, again, like I said, there's always exceptions to the rules, but if you want a starting point, start at I-12. Find an I-12, or if you want, go to Yoshimitsu and understand that even if he can't punish it, no one can, mostly. And the reason I say mostly is because Soul Charge is the ultimate get-off-me tool, because I believe the frames on it was I-3, so it's got a 3-frame startup. Or it just starts at the third frame. There's no there's no getting out of that, pretty much. So, as a whole, the way it works is make sure that when you're reading it, you understand what you're reading. So, if you guys have any questions down below, please ask them, and I will be sure to answer them as soon as humanly possible. This is Ittarra signing off. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I hope to see you in the next video. Take care, everyone, and be safe. Later!